How much?
On your butt.
What do I give you $100 right now if you were able to get rid of the swap?
If you can get off me, that'd be great. Slouching in front of the camera like you've never been in front of a camera before. This is Rhea, and this is Just the Who of Us, where we talk about a range of topics including life events, current events, spirituality, entertainment, family relationships, as well as answering listener questions and more.
Oh, my computer! No, I can't play Sims. Their keys are all sticky. And every time I try to put the cheat codes in, it gives me more money than I was cheating for. Now I can buy my family all the baby bibs they need.
Really, it's just us having a conversation, like we're talking about this to someone that doesn't know anything about it. There's a few people who kind of already know this story, our story, but most people that like, why are you looking at me like that?
So you told the stories to these people?
No, I'm saying like people that we personally know, like people we've known for.
I thought you meant like people on your podcast, because they don't know it then.
No, it wasn't finished. So there's a few people like in real life that know our like story or whatever. But the fabulous people of the podcast world, most of them don't know anything about us as a thing.
There's also a fly in here. I apologize ahead of time. This is like the episode of Breaking Bad with Walt. The whole episode, it's just them, and whole episode is them in the lab chasing this fly.
Well, we're just slouching in front of the camera like you've never been in front of a camera before. A few people in person that actually know our history. Most people that like most people we know now as adults don't even know. I mean, not that it's like they have to know because they know us, but most people don't. Partially because most of the people we like interact with now aren't people we've known our whole lives.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm gonna let you I'm gonna let you tell kind of your version of how you were in high school one day, you looked over and you saw the person that you were going to marry.
Like, that's quite how it happened.
That's absolutely how it happened. You were like, hey, you got to introduce me to this girl because in about 30 years, I'm going to marry her.
Nah, and the math is off. That would make us be in our 40s. Nothing wrong with 40-year-olds. I can't wait to be 40, but the math doesn't equate. It's not right. So what am I doing?
Okay, so tell your version of. We'll start out with how we met.
We've talked about this recently, like kind of how we met, and like the more we talk about like one-on-one, the more we talk about it, the more I realize that it's not as like
romantic.
Yeah, like nothing about it. Nothing about it's not romantic because like this is not a slight to you, but like I know you don't remember the details, and then even me, like I'm like I don't know. All I know is this: you're 362 days older than me. So when we met, I was in 9th grade. You were in 10th grade. All I really remember was that, I mean, like, let's be frank. You were.
I don't want to be frank. Can I be somebody else?
Gosh, you could be Leonidas for all I care.
Okay.
All I remember was this: is that I saw you
from across the room.
I'm done. I'm about to leave the podcast and go kill this fly.
You're like, I'm going to marry her.
I did not say that I wasn't going to marry anyone at 14 years old. The way my hormones were going, I was not thinking about marriage. So okay, what I do remember about high school is that I'd seen you a few times, and I mean, like I said, let's be transparent. Like you're taller than most women that you're gonna ever be around, and you have been for quite some time. So yeah, you stood out. Yeah, you were. I mean, that was really the thing. It's hard to miss you.
Wow, that's magical.
You're tall. You're a woman, and you're taller than basically every other woman around, or girl at the time, because you weren't a woman, all the girls at the time, you were taller than all the girls and probably taller than most of the guys,
There
so.
was one other girl that was about my height.
Well, yes, she's not here. I don't remember that girl. I have no clue who she
No
was.
offense. She wasn't abroad. She was a nice young lady.
No, she was abroad. Like she was from Spain.
Okay. Anyway.
She studied abroad. But yeah, I remember seeing you a few times, and I was in theater class in ninth grade, and I had there was a girl in my theater class. I don't really remember her last name. I want to say her name was.
We don't need to say her last name.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, I won't say her name. I won't say her name then. I don't think it's that serious, but I get it. But whatever.
We can say her first name.
Her name was Cassandra, right? And I remember, like, we were in theater class together, and I remember one day finally, like, building up the courage to ask her about who you were, only because I had seen her fraternizing with you.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, and then that was it. And I don't know how much time passed from when I said something to her about like, yo, who is she, until the first time we spoke. I do vaguely remember us speaking in the bus parking lot. We were leaving school, and I think she made like a quick introduction. And it wasn't anything like fantastic, because you were kind of like, okay. And I didn't say anything phenomenal because, well, I was 14 years old, and like, I don't know, I don't know how it is to girls at 14 years old or 15 years old, but to a boy at 14 years old, when you get to high school, all the women look different. Like all the girls look different, right? Girls like growing into their bodies a little bit and stuff like that. So a 14-year-old hormonal boy, it's like, like look at these grown women, and they're not. They're like 15 and 16 years old. I was 14 at the time, like, not like, keep it down. So yeah, that was it. And I just remember us. Yeah, we just briefly spoke in the parking lot of the bus parking lot. We went on our separate ways. Maybe we exchanged numbers. I don't remember. And all I really remember is that through my ninth grade to whenever you graduated, which would have been 2003,
mm-hmm.
we just kind of communicated periodically, sometimes more time than sometimes it was more, and other times it was less throughout a given year. During those times, we talked, but we always were kind of just cool.
You mean like high school?
Through high school. This is through high school. So this is, like I said, my 9th through 11th grade year, because when I was in 11th grade, you were in 12th grade and were going to be graduating at that end of that school year. So yeah, I just remember us kind of being cool. I know we went to the movies a couple times. I think I came over to to your mom's house, hung out a few times, nothing like that. I wasn't that type of guy. Just really wasn't. Not that it wasn't on my mind. I just wasn't I wasn't all about that action. I was like, I need a car first. And I didn't have a car, so it just didn't make any sense to me to be that guy. Yeah, and that was really it. I just remember us kind of really being cool throughout that time. We joke about it, but I always say, I don't know that we didn't really date. Dating wasn't it was never our title, Oh, you want me to go further than high school?
Well, we're here now, so I just kind of wanted to get your perspective of meeting and whatever at the beginning of the journey, because well, I don't remember a lot of things. So I want to kind of, part of my coaching business, focused on relationships and kind of working with people to navigate their relationships. Not just romantic relationships, but in a relationship that someone has been in for a long period of time.
Push it to the limit.
Oh. Obviously, we have kind of dealt with each other on some level for 400 years.
That's crazy. 400 years slavery was still going on, so that's wild. And we're really old. We're really old, and we were really, changing the way things were. Really pushing the envelope, I guess.
The white master daughter gets knocked up, and everybody that works for her father is black.
Sounds like Thomas Jefferson, though.
What? No.
And Thomas Jefferson was like...
It's Martin Lawrence and...
Life?
Yes.
Eddie Murphy?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. I remember. Yeah, I remember that. Okay. The dude, the baseball player.
Yeah.
That got released.
And then the one guy was like, it's mine. And the other guy was like, no,
everybody says,
yeah.
I'm the pappy.
So a lot of our relationship involves movies and music. Yeah. A lot of somebody will say something and the other person like finishes a lyric in a song with those words in there or something like that. When people have been involved with one another for a really long time, there's obviously ups and downs and changes, right? So starting out in high school, doing whatever we were doing, getting to know each other or whatever, and then I went and had children and you did other stuff.
We just lived life, honestly. I mean, it's, yeah. It's nothing. It wasn't like any, especially not in high school, it wasn't like falling outs or anything like that. It was just like, I never remember us having a conversation on like, are we dating or like, I mean, like, let's think how unique your situation is, like to be in high school and have a child, you know what I mean? So like, for me, also being a child, I don't know, it was just like, I got a friend who got a baby, like, okay, and that's that, you know what I mean? Like, so we just always kind of remain cool. I know we talked on the phone a lot.
Yeah.
I remember that, but I mean, I was just, we were doing what you did in that time, which was talk on the phone, like talking on the phone. I
talked to a lot of people on the phone.
I did too. You know what I mean? Through elementary, all through pretty much all of high school, you know what I mean? Like, I don't think it was until about 03, 04 when it seemed like, okay, like it seemed commonplace to have a cell phone. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? But like, I mean, even then, everybody still had like a landline. Like using your cell phone was like, wow, I got minutes. You know that? Like, I remember it being a big deal to like, yo, I got 300 rollover minutes from last month.
So we'd known each other so long that we knew each other when your cell phone had minutes.
Yeah. Singular was still a company. So, yeah. Yeah, so honestly, that's how high school was. We always just remained cool. I dropped out of high school. So I dropped out my senior year. I know it sounds crazy, but I did. I dropped out starting my senior year. I dropped out. I just thought I had everything figured out and what I was going to do and how I was going to do it. And honestly, in retrospect, when I think about it, it wasn't that I didn't. I had a plan. I let other people's lack of belief get in my way of what it was that I was trying to do. But that's not to say that education isn't important, because education is important. And I realized that many years later, just how important education is and can be. Yeah. So then you and I move into after high school. So let's look, because I'm good with dates. Dates always make sense to me. So I'll just kind of keep the dates going. You graduate high school in 03.
Yeah.
I would have graduated high school in '04, but I left. I don't really remember a lot of communication with us, say between like the ages of, that what would have been my 12th grade year, like a little bit here and there, remain like kind of like,
I think we were just kind of
like there was
doing other things because I was with Jada's father and whatnot.
Yeah, so there may have been, definitely not between like that '04 to '06 time period. I remember being very busy in life and trying to make it all make sense to me at that time. I'm trying to think what social media was around. So like we probably connected a little bit on MySpace,
Mm-hmm.
probably in that like '04 to '06 time range a little bit. What I do remember that really stands out to me was, I won't say a bunch of names and stuff like that, but whatever, I'll keep some of that out. But I do remember in 2006, I was trying to, I was working. It wasn't anything special. I was just really trying to, I was working, like, I always had like side hustles before the side hustle, before people said it all the time. I got a side hustle. Okay, sure you do. Like, okay. But I always did. Really just trying to figure out this money thing and navigate and understand money. And it took many, many years after that to finally understand money on any kind of level. But I was really trying to figure out my thing and what it was that I was going to do because, coming into like '06, I'm turning 20 years old. And I remember in '06 deciding I think I'm going to give truck driving a shot. I don't remember exactly when in '06, so I'm a little wonky with the months, but I remember when I committed to it, to going to truck driving school. So I did that, went to truck driving school for however long it was, passed, went to the DMV, did all the testing that you needed to do to get your CDL, things of that nature, and must have been around sometime in '07, beginning of '07, I feel like I ventured out, found a truck driving job, and went on the road. Fast forward a little bit into '07. Now I'm on the road and I'm doing it pretty regularly. I hated it. I hated everything about it. I also probably wasn't mature enough to really understand what the job would entail. But I remember, I don't even know how we got in communication, but I think we just always had
space.
Probably MySpace. But I think we, at that time, like everyone, maybe, and part of it too was just that like back then, like
we did have mutual friends.
Yeah. So like back then at that time, like, people's numbers just stayed the same.
Mm-hmm.
So it was nothing to like reach out to someone, but texting was definitely a thing in 2006. Like, people were chop, like me driving, just looking at the road. And I remember we started communicating a lot that way. Sorry, come back. So we started communicating a lot while I was on the road and talking and stuff like that. You were going through some things at that point in your life. I was bored on the road. I was bored. I was like, you know what it was? It was like, I would go days where like I didn't talk to people, you know what I'm saying? And then like, all right. And then I'm out west. I'm like, you get out west and like, I don't have people out at the time. I didn't have like friends or family or anybody who lived on the West Coast. So everybody I would talk to was on the East Coast. So, there's that 3 hours, weirdly enough, although I don't think it's that big of a deal. It is to people's sleep schedule and stuff like that. So even like at the time trying to call my mom, my mom would be asleep or whatever the case may be. But you and I spoke a lot. We spoke a lot. So, and I remember one time, like maybe my truck broke down, so I had to stay in this like rinky-dink hotel for a couple of days. And so we spoke a lot. So yeah, I don't know how much detail you want to go into about that time. We could not if we want to. So.
Okay, we'll just say I was married. At one point, we separated, our first separation, and we were in communication.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, something like that. uh, yeah, whatever. Yeah, so yeah, we were in communication. So like I said, this is like '07, uh, and pretty much stayed in communication all throughout '07, all throughout '08, and probably '09. And maybe I think maybe like 2010. So like really like that kind of 3 year period where we talked, we just communicated and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But it was, when people say the word toxic, like when I hear it now, where I am in my life and the things I've done, things I've seen, things I've accomplished, things I failed at, I think about some of our time during those years and it being very toxic. And I'm not putting that on like solely on you. A lot of it was me too, right?
Takes takes two to tango.
It takes two to tango, but also too, that's just, kids listening out there, like really being mature when it comes to like,
not many kids listen to this podcast.
I'm just saying, man, whoever's listening, because some of y'all are grown-ups, need a chin check too. Relationships are, you have to be ready. And part of being ready is having yourself in line. Even if you are young couples, you're 20, 21 years old, you have to put in work on yourself and put in work on your relationship. And where we were at that time, none of that was going on. It was just all over the place, man. It was wild. It was crazy. So it's funny looking at our relationship now because I'm like, dang, you really couldn't have, and I could talk about that when we go further because, like I said, from about '07 to 2010, maybe like August, somewhere in 2010, we were in communication. And then we went a few years where we never spoke, like legit never spoke. So I would say probably from like, so like about sometime throughout 2010, a little bit of 2010, maybe like early part of 2010, or maybe it was we stayed in communication and then we went our separate ways for a really long time. It was years before, years in the sense of whatever.
So, yeah. So in part of that, I was still married and me and my now ex-husband we were separated and then we got back together and we did that a few times. And then, I think mostly you were just kind of like, this is a lot and it's not good. So I feel like rightfully so. It was probably you who made that decision. Like, we're going to walk away from this.
Yeah.
And, partly too, because I couldn't get my shit together and figure out what relationship I wanted to be in, just being frank. Now I can be frank.
XYZ. The lady said it today. I started to die.
This guy is like what do you call it? Like I don't know, whatever, XY and XYZ and XYZ.
I don't know why I just started saying it recently. I never said that like that before.
No.
But no, you're right. I think I remember getting to a point. I mean, I won't even get into like the.
Don't put me out there too much. I mean, if you want to put yourself out
I don't want to.
It was toxic.
It was super toxic, man.
And then we kind of did this back and forth thing though. Like realistically.
Mm-hmm. Like we think we do all the toxicity and then pretend we were like, I don't know. It was a lot, man.
It was a lot.
But I remember getting to a point, and I had conversations with a couple of friends, like my mom and stuff at the time, and a lot of the people at the time of my life were just like, you're miserable, you're too young to like be like in this sort of like space, and I mean, y'all don't know me, but I'm very much like for now that I think about it, for a while, I try not to make emotional decisions. I try to make decisions that are based and decisions that are justified. And I just remember one day making a decision and saying like, I'm done. And that was it. I was done. I pieced out, and we went probably 4 or 5 years, close to 5 years, closer to 5 years than not, where we just we didn't speak.
I was trying to get like a different angle.
So yeah, we went years we didn't speak, moved on with life, accomplished things, whatever, was living my life trying to figure it out. I, went back to school to get my GED, then went to college and did 2 years at community college. I didn't do the 4-year route. I just felt like it's possibly wasting a bit of money. Still wasn't fully financially smart. I wasn't hip to what I needed to be doing financially fully, but I was trying to get there. So we went our separate ways, and then some time passed. I think around maybe 2014, we spoke a little bit, briefly, just quick, hey, hi, nothing real deep, not even really catching up. And then sometime in 2015, we started communicating a little bit more. We went on a not date. And that's really the start of where we are now, leading to marriage and things of that nature. I don't like all these views. What was happening?
I don't know. I was just trying to get a different angle.
So, yeah, that's that. I mean, about 2015, kind of trying to figure out what we were doing and if we were going to do anything. And then I think coming into 2016 was more okay, we're a couple, and just slowly starting to figure it out from there. And it was a lot of that toxic stuff went away, but there was a lot of, especially early on, a lot of trying to understand. But I think part of that is, I can't speak for all adults because, there's definitely people out there that's 21, 22. They are very, 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 very extremely mature. I wasn't necessarily that. I don't think you would probably say that you were at that age. So there are
not even in my 20s.
There are young adults who are there, and they really have a plan. I think that's part of it too. Is in life you really have to have a plan to make it make sense and something to strive for. But I think early on, although a lot of the toxicity was gone, because I just don't think that's where we were in our lives anymore. There was still a lot of learning to do and growing to do as individuals, which I think we were figuring that out and working on. It is hard to work on yourself in a relationship. Early, it's not hard to try to improve yourself, but when you are actively working on yourself, it can definitely be difficult. So there was a lot of that early on. There was a lot of that. Yeah.
You have to take our situation into account. So our dynamic is not like most relationships or households. So I had 4 biological children, and then I'd also taken in this newborn baby. And these children I had most of them kind of in between our not romantic relationship, but I had these children kind of in between our knowing each other and starting friendship and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
So, for me, it's like, okay, I'm over here. I have myself, my kids, and whatever I'm dealing with. Not really considering the fact either that like you just have you, right, at this earlier point. So me as the person that I was, probably wasn't taking into account that like, okay, we stopped dealing with each other, and then I still have my whole life over here. But then you are just kind of here. You know what I mean? Like, we stop dealing with each other. I go move on. I find somebody to deal with. I have kids to focus on, whatever. But you didn't have all that. So when the toxic phases were going on, it was easier for me to just kind of like, all right, whatever, and distract myself. I had things to occupy me, but not taking into consideration the fact that like you at points were kind of a part of all this too. And then we go our separate ways, and then you're just not able to be there anymore. Like later on when, the kids were a little bit older or whatever, you had kind of gotten to know them. And then, I don't know. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I
think I understand what you're saying, but for me, it wasn't really like that because like, I knew your kids, especially the two older ones, but I didn't like, there wasn't these like deep-seated relationships with them. You know what I'm saying? Like I wasn't involved enough or old enough or mature enough to like really get that. Even coming into the relationship, like in 2015, 2016, when we were like trying to find our footing and what we were going to do, I wasn't ready at the time. I wasn't, you know what I mean? It's a lot, it's a lot to be a single person and then enter a relationship with someone who has kids because it's a lot. It's a lot, and it probably won't work for most people. Or to end up messed up for most people, which you see it a lot. It just becomes this thing. So, I think our situation is a little different and time will tell, you know what I mean? But I feel confident enough to where we are now. Like,
I'm going to get there. I'm going to get to know.
Well, okay. Well, I'm just saying, I feel confident now that things, will be good, worked out, but that's, have a lot to do with a lot of other stuff too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But this is not, I wouldn't tell people like, no offense to you or no offense to our relationship. I wouldn't tell a young man or an older man. I mean, I guess if you're older, it's a little bit different and the people's kids are completely gone. But getting into a relationship with someone who actively has kids that they are like raising and need to get, become these good adults, in life, I wouldn't tell most men that. I wouldn't tell any man to go that route.
I mean,
that's just the truth.
I wouldn't suggest my own son to do that.
Yeah, I wouldn't. So, I wouldn't tell him either. Like I just don't think you could do just more that you could do without that. But it is, for myself, I can only speak for myself. I did do it. And luckily enough, and, maybe it's a little bit more than luck, it's actually trying and putting in an effort and working on myself and getting my finances in order and things of that nature. Making sure my job situation is straight, making sure that, things that I got going on, investments and things of that nature are all situated. So it makes it a little
XYZ.
In XYZ. It just makes it a lot easier. But I wouldn't tell And I wouldn't tell either, vice versa. I wouldn't tell a woman to do it either. You know what I mean? Like, I think you should go out, find your own, build your own, do your own thing.
I would prefer none of my kids get with somebody who already has
I
kids.
just don't think you should do it. I mean, that's coming from me, and I'm in that situation. But you know, if you listen to this, y'all ain't me. So I'm different. People can say what they want to, like, oh, he's a simp and he's a da 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 da. All right, maybe it's cool.
But I also wouldn't get into a relationship with someone who had kids.
Yeah. So
I wouldn't do it. And so I'm glad you don't have kids because we wouldn't be here.
If I had kids already, we definitely wouldn't be. We wouldn't be. Yeah, we definitely wouldn't be there. So I mean,
so what I feel we've discussed this and we've kind of concluded that, especially you, most of our relationships before us moving in together was kind of like practice run, maybe of sorts. Like, isn't really as relevant as our current relationship.
It's not. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
100%.
And so it took me a while to kind of agree or really understand that. I don't think that it's irrelevant, but it's so different than our relationship now that I do understand what you mean.
Oh, you're talking about conversations we've had. Yeah.
Like, okay. I do understand what you mean by that now, because it's not that it's completely irrelevant, but like, we were younger, we were both going through certain things, and it's a completely different relationship. So we moved in together
2017.
There you go. Because every year I think it's been like 6 years. But so we moved in together. Okay, back up a little bit. Right before we moved in together, not very long before. How did the like engagement happen? Okay, so I think that it was. We've had conversations where, like, jokingly, right? One, like, oh, if we're both still single in 5 years, blah blah blah, and I feel like initially we kind of had this conversation. It was like, if we're not going to actually be serious and have like an adult relationship, then we should just not have a relationship. That's about how it started. And so, let's actually, if we're going to have a relationship and be serious, do kind of the right thing and like plan this future and become a whole and whatnot. And that's kind of what led to the engagement.
Yeah, that's about it. Yeah, I don't remember necessarily like. Yes, that's kind of how I remember it loosely. Was that sort of conversation happened, and then just kind of.
You're just like, hey, put this ring on.
Wasn't too far from that.
And then I was like, yo, I'm the Vanda.
I didn't do a whole spiel.
You did a proposal, but it was later on and in privacy. But
you know me, I'm not Mr. Like, I'm not Mr. Romance like that. Not even that, right? I'm just not Mr. Like, even this is weird to me. I'm just not Mr. Like, I don't need too much engagement with people. I need just enough stimulation from people. And then I'm cool. I go do my own thing. And then then I'm like, I need a little bit, and I go out. It's super selfish, I'll admit. Very selfish of me. Like, I just kind of use people for what I need, and then I go back and continue, but
we're very different socially.
Oh man, very.
I can talk to anybody.
Yeah.
I have a thing that I do where I talk to people.
Wait, hold on. Because that's a false narrative about me. That like, because I can talk to people too. It's just what we talk about. I don't want to talk to people about the weather. I don't want to talk to people about like the conversation we had at the school today. That's a conversation I have with people. That's how you can see, like, I got like super, like, all right, this is cool. You want to know? Let me give you something. Like, this is how I feel. And these are my thoughts. You know, like, I like that sort of conversation. Yeah. I just hate
small talk.
I hate it. I hate it with a passion, man. Just in every, and I understand that sometimes you just have to do it. Like, even with work, there's just things that you have to do. There's conversations that you have to have sometimes. And even some of those conversations, I rush through them because I'm like, yo, we doing a lot of going around in circles. Boom, boom, boom. X, Y, Z. Bam, done, finished. I fixed the problem. That's how I feel. But we definitely are different when it comes to that. I don't need it. So I was never going to do some big show. You know what I mean? Like, even like, I'm glad when we got married, like how we got married. What was I going to do? Spend $25,000, $30,000 on a wedding and be pissed off? Like, send somebody to private school with that money. For a couple years.
Speaking of,
I'm just saying, it's stupid. I'm not spending that kind of money on a wedding, or, you know, just not.
I don't. Okay.
Not that. I'm not the showy guy.
I understand weddings in a traditional sense, right? If it's a traditional sense, as the father, the groom's parents pay for blah blah blah, the wife's parents pay for blah, you know, pay for the ceremony or pay for the reception. One does the other. You know, when you have, that's a whole nother topic, because you have to have complete families with certain dynamics. We don't have parents or families who are able to provide things like that for us. So like a lot of people, that would be something that we would have to do for ourselves. Traditionally, we wouldn't do that ourselves. Our, family would do it. I don't understand weddings in the sense of spending thousands of dollars for a party for ourselves, when why don't you all come together and throw us a party and that'll be that, you know what I mean? Like,
no, I don't knock it. Like, I feel like there's people who really got it like that, and they could do that. So they could throw their weddings and blow $100,000 on, and it's just that. I say, if that's your life, do it. I look at every bit of money as an opportunity of what I could do with that money, mostly protecting my future. That's just me. You know what I mean? And maybe I'm not coming across $100,000 as quick as the next person is. So my view on it is slightly different. And when you've been poor, I think you sometimes view it a little different. Like, I still view money like I could, you know what I mean? Like, I still view money as like, what if I don't get this? What if I don't ever get this?
Yeah.
What if I don't ever get this again?
Right. You know, right. Like, we have money that comes in every month from the things that we do, and we're still kind of like,
yeah, I don't want to, I'd much rather take that money and put that money somewhere and let it, like I told you before, I never thought, it wasn't until a handful of years ago, like, I really thought about what it meant to be retired. Like, okay, I'm retired, but you have to have enough money to live without an income, depending on how long you live. Mm-hmm. So if you retire at 60 and you live till 90, you got to have 30 years worth of income. And in 2023, that number has only gone up. There's no more, oh, you got $1 million. You need more than $1 million to live. Oh, you married? You might need double. You know what I'm saying? So, that's just how I look at it. That's why you were never going to get no big show from me, when it comes to that.
Okay, so let's kind of briefly talk about why do you think, I'm going to tell you why I think, and I know that our answers are going to be similar, because I know our relationship works now compared to, say, 10 years ago. I'll actually, you go first. Why do you think, in your opinion, our relationship works now as opposed to like 10 years ago?
So it's a loaded question, but I think a big part of it And I hate it, but I know to people how it sounds. But I think a lot of it is because at some point, I don't really remember what the conversation was, and it didn't happen overnight, but we had to start looking at our relationship as like a business transaction, and that it's gonna have to be more than like to we like each other, and we like watching movies together when we have a little bit of downtime, or like even that we love each other. Like, there gotta be more to this. Like, what are we gonna do? What about when all the kids gone? We still gonna like each other?
Mm-hmm.
Like, we had to start thinking about like what else are we gonna get out of this? And like, my people could be like, "Oh, money doesn't make it." Yeah, money makes everything. It makes a lot of it because when we had really tough times financially, that's what things sucked. And all that love don't work.
Well, because you're stressed out and you're
Yeah,
this and that.
and love can't fix it. All the love in the world can't fix that when your pockets ain't right and your bank accounts is looking messed up and you struggling. So I think that's it's probably not the only thing, but I think it's a very big. Sorry, I think it's a very big part when we started looking when we had this kind of conversation, and like I said, it didn't happen immediately, but once we started like getting a little bit more out of the relationship, other than like we like each other, we love each other, and it became like we have to. This has to. There has to be something in the end. Like when that day comes and we're 80, 90 plus years old and like we leave Earth, like what else did we put in? What else did we do? What do we have to show for it? Yeah, there's memories and stuff like that, but there has to be some sort of legacy. And I think a lot of that, comes down to those financials and like what you made, what you put up on the board, so to say. So, I mean, I don't think it's the only thing, but I do think it's a very, very big thing, and I think it's very important. So, I think that sort of changed the dynamic, and it actually made it where like the love started to feel different because the stakes were higher. You know what I'm saying? Like the stakes became higher. It's like, oh, we got business and we got these different ideas and things like, use a little bit of this money from that business to move on to the next thing. And like when we started thinking and strategizing and talking like that, I just think it made the relationship better and deeper. So that's just me. So I'm sorry to put all of it on like, oh, money, 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 but whatever, man.
So I think for me, it was kind of a combination of, I'm not a very traditional person. It was a kind of a combination of my mindset shift as a parent and finances. Because in the beginning, before we started the business and everything like that, a lot of things changed COVID, but for the good, because when COVID hit, I couldn't work because the restaurant shut down. But then my kindergartner was homeschooled and all this. There's a lot of stuff that changed. You were out for a little bit on unemployment and whatever. But part of it financially and parenting was conversations we had about finances. Finances at that time could have took a really big hit. But instead of letting them kind of take a hit, we were like, okay, what can we do to not be falling apart like everybody else right now? And, coming up with ideas for certain things. I was doing certain things. I started writing the books. I started the business. I started the first business. All of that kind of, and, conversations we had. I started thinking from our conversations and just kind of the state of everything at the time. How do I want to impact my kids? How do I want to educate them? How do I want to teach them to be successful financially and make better decisions so that they're not in their early 30s trying to get their shit together, and parenting in a sense of just like making better decisions to teach them to do better. Because I feel like I spent a lot of time making bad decisions. And for me, I don't ever feel like I've been like a bad parent, but I don't feel like I really started parenting them successfully until I was in this relationship, the stable, positive relationship, mostly healthy. We still were working through things, but I couldn't really be a good reflection to them until I don't think until like we really started getting our shit together. And that in our relationship, it reflected in my parenting because I was making long-term decisions.
You hear that, ladies? You need a man.
I
Good man.
You need a healthy partner. Not being a traditional. I'm not a traditional. I'm not a long-term thinker because my memory is shit for one. So, and also just being in a certain financial place, in a certain life choice place for so long, it becomes difficult to think about the future. Like when you're not used to really having money, when you're used to living this certain way, it can be difficult to think about things being different in the future. So it was difficult for me for a while to kind of like make future plans because also I didn't really have the confidence that they would kind of come to fruition. Um, but having a healthy partner kind of changed that because you are a long term, a future thinker. So having somebody to kind of help me be able to think that way and somebody to partner with me and say, hey, look, like I've got you, you have help, you have a partner, you have somebody. It doesn't have to be just you who does everything, because I know that was the thing for a long time too. I thought I have to, in my mind, I have to do everything. And it took me a while to realize that when you have a healthy partner, you don't have to think that you have to do everything yourself. So that working as a team and, realizing that, like a few years in, like, oh, I actually have like this is like a partner. This isn't just like somebody I'm dating or whatever. I mean, I was married before, but he knows that it wasn't really a partnership. We were, young and whatever. So making better decisions in parenting and finances, I think, for me, is what makes the difference in like our relationship now and 10 years ago.
I mean, yeah, I agree. I think marriage, us being married, even in the short time that we've actually been married, has changed too.
Yeah.
Our view. I mean, my views have changed on marriage completely. So,
What were your views before that have changed?
I just had never saw a ton of like in my actual life, not like the internet, people that I don't know on TV and whatever. Even people in real life that I'm like, but still, I don't know you in real life. I know you on YouTube because I watch a video. Like, was seeing, yeah, I never saw a whole lot of like couples and like married people in real life. I mean, I could think of a few when I was younger, but like I had a friend when I was younger who lived in the neighborhood. Like his parents were married. My next door neighbor, his parents were married. I didn't know I don't know their relationship, so I don't even really know the ins and outs. I just knew, when I think about it, I thought it was. I thought about this as I started getting older. Like, oh man, like I did see some of those sometimes, but a lot of the time in my life, I just didn't. My own household, I didn't see.
We were both raised by single moms.
Yeah, my mom got married. The whole stepdad thing. That wasn't a healthy relationship on any level. I didn't really see even their good times. When I looked at them, I'm just like, that's not what you want. Yeah, I don't know. I didn't see it a lot. I saw it sometimes, but I didn't see it enough, I think. And as I started to get a little bit older, even a year or two ago, leading up till now, it could just be, seeing different things, reading different things, about, marriage, like what marriage should mean, what I mean? It just started to mean something to me. And honestly, you know what it was? Okay, here's a really good way to say this, to sum it up. I wanted to be, even now, there are certain men that I know now and who I see now and who I've met and I know when I have relationships now who I wanted to emulate.
Mm.
And I wanted to be that. I was like, I want to be my own individual, but and I know I keep saying like man and stuff like that, but I'm not a woman. I can only think my life and my thoughts through the views of a man and what that means to me. And it is something that's important to me. Being the man that I want to be. And a lot of that is seeing men who I respect and saying like, that's what I should be in a way.
Yeah.
I can still be Quintin and I can still be an individual, but like taking care of your family and like having your stuff together and making sure that your financial, making sure your financial situation for going forward every year for the rest of your life and retirement and even in death is correct. Like I wanted to be that.
Yeah.
And I started to see it and started to talk to different people and, my situation isn't everyone else's, but that started to be something that I wanted to do and emulate. Not even really emulate. Like I was like, I want to, like, why not? Why not me? And so it started changing. And I realized like, I think we should be married. I know we use the word partner a lot and that's cool. But I mean, I think us being husband and wife is also like pretty cool and pretty important and pretty important. You know what I mean? Like we got kids in the house and, I hope that it's something that they can gravitate towards and they see and they want to live their lives like that. Like how, like I said, I can only speak from a man's point of view because that's all I am, how a man should treat a woman and how a woman should treat a man and how, two people can love one another and how they love one another. So I don't know. I think it started to change for me. So
I think our current relationship has definitely changed the trajectory of all of the kids' future relationships.
Also.
Okay, so you're not a social media guy, so you don't have anything for them to follow you on, but
oh man, yo, check this out. You can follow me at Linda's Cleaning Crew.com. And Linda's, don't put the apostrophe in the URL. Linda's Cleaning Crew. The crew is spelled Qrew. Linda being my deceased mother. Crew, but with the Q being me.
You're welcome.
So she did come up with the name. We kind of were batting it around, but then she said something and I was like, that's it. I was like, I have nothing else. We don't need to come up with no more ideas. That's it. So you can follow me at Linda's Cleaning Crew. And that's really it. I don't have no social media. You know what I'm saying? I give you my Reddit username, but yeah, whatever. That's cool. Don't worry. Quintin Hayes on YouTube. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I don't like post anything. I watch videos sometimes on YouTube. That's it.
So if you want to go see what he's watching, he's on YouTube.
Wait, is that public?
I hope so.
Yeah. Okay. That's it. I don't really have nothing. So don't follow me. If you see me,
don't follow
me either. You don't want the problems, and I don't want them either.
All right. Well, thanks for being here. And I'm glad we got to know you a little bit. Well, they got to know you a little bit.
Yeah. Next time I'll look nicer. She didn't tell me we were doing a video, so I apologize, but I wasn't changing. I was committed to this outfit because I've been working all day and then moving and going to the private school. So listen, I'm chilling.
He's not in private school. You have a kid we're putting in private school.
Yeah, I'm not in private school. Things would be different if I went to private school. Yeah.
All right. Well, you got anything else?
No. Marriage is important.
Dedicated partnership is important.
It is, but marriage is important too. You can do it for whatever reason you want to do. I ain't here to tell you whatever your religious beliefs are, but I do think that marriage is important under something, some sort of belief. You know what I mean? I think you should try the marriage thing. I think marriage gets a bad rap. I think over the past X amount of years, people are like, oh, marriage, like free love. All right, you free love all you want to. Marriage, dedication to your partner, commitment, working. It's hard. Nobody said a relationship was going to be easy, but I think that if you put the work in, you can have a successful relationship. A lot of people won't put the work in, and if you don't put the work in, you're bound to fail. But I do think marriage gets a bad rap, and actually, I think it's a pretty cool deal. You know what I mean? Get your money right too, because if you get your money right, the marriage will be all right. Yeah, if you broke, man. But even then, if you broke, man, sometimes, especially like if you broke, you're a young couple, no kids yet, you know what I mean? Maybe you got like a small dog or something like that. Like whatever, man. Like y'all can.
You still have time to get it together.
You can really thug it out, man. Like, you might have to cut back on them lattes or whatever the case may be and just pack some ramen. But you can make it. You know what I mean? It's work. It's work. So, yeah. That's it. That's all I got.
Thanks for being here, pal.
If anyone wants to chime in, or if anybody has questions they want us to answer or topics to discuss, you can leave that on the Facebook page. Visit www.philolity.net. That's FALOLITY.